Welcome back. The execution of Abdul Qadir Mullah on charges of war crimes has divided India's eastern neighbor Bangladesh, with radical groups in the country having gone on the rampage as general elections approach the country, which is now torn between an ideological divide more than pure political rivalry between two of the major leading parties just before an election.
He was known as the Butcher of Mirpur, who committed brutal rapes and murders during the 1971 Bangladesh War, vehemently opposed to the independence movement of East Pakistan. But on the 12th of December this month, when Abdul Mullah was hanged for the unthinkable atrocities he had committed by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's War Crimes Tribunal, Bangladesh witnessed a spate of violence, with Mullah's Jamaat-e-Islami party coming together with the principal opposition in the state to vow revenge against the government. The opposition even going to the extent of boycotting the upcoming 2014 general elections in Bangladesh in the wake of Mullah's hanging, also demanding that Sheikh Hasina step down to give way to an independent caretaker government to conduct elections impartially. But it's a system which Sheikh Hasina had changed in 2001.
I think that basically every effort should continue to persuade BNP to take part in the elections. But I think nonetheless, despite the fact that BNP, if they continue the boycott, and especially because they appear to be continuing the boycott because they want to cast doubts on the credibility of the electoral process, I think the election process will just have to go on. Because otherwise, democracy in Bangladesh will be deeply affected.
The bitter political rivalry in Dhaka between the pro-India Awami League, led by Sheikh Hasina, and the pro-Jamaat Bangladesh Nationalist Party, led by Khaleda Zia, has long undermined political stability in Bangladesh and limited realization of its vast economic potential. The divide further widening with the approaching general elections. But as far as India is concerned, the return of Sheikh Hasina could only be beneficial, considering her determined fight against extremism in recent years, due to which India's eastern frontier has been relatively calm. While the ruling Awami League is perceived to be a moderate political force, the BNP is seen as pitching for a pan-Islamic identity for the nation. But many in New Delhi fear that the return of Islamist groups backed by Pakistan's ISI in Bangladesh could threaten the vulnerable eastern borders of India. But Delhi has still maintained a non-partisan approach towards Dhaka, and by encouraging the BNP to participate in the elections.
We believe in not interfering basically in the affairs of our neighbors or any other country, just as we would react very strongly if somebody tries to interfere in our domestic affairs. So by and large, we take the route of that it is for the people of Bangladesh to decide, and it is for the parties and the leaders of Bangladesh to decide how they wish to play their politics, how they wish to conduct themselves, or how they wish to have elections, etc.
Meanwhile, with terrorists like Hafiz Saeed trying their level best to accuse India of siding with the Sheikh Hasina government in eliminating Pakistan supporters like Abdul Mullah, the big question is, what are India's options in this battle for Bangladesh, which is perhaps more ideological than electoral?
Although New Delhi would perhaps prefer the return of the Awami League, India has maintained a non-partisan stand in the events in Bangladesh, even as Western countries have chosen to support the right-leaning Khaleda Zia's BNP. And to discuss the changing political and domestic scenario in Bangladesh, we have with us Mr. Humayun Kabir, who was formerly a Deputy High Commissioner in India and later Bangladesh's ambassador to the United States. Mr. Kabir, my first question. The current turmoil in Bangladesh is perhaps the worst political crisis faced by the country in recent years. Where do you see the situation growing from here?
Thank you very much. Yes, you are right that we are passing through a phase of uncertainty and a kind of political crisis. The political crisis that Bangladesh has seen for the last one or 2 years remains unresolved. So that means that the prospect of instability continuing remains high. And at the same time, the question of legitimacy of governance will remain as vibrant as ever, because the people, the government that will come based on this election, that is that election for the 10th Parliament, will remain weak, in the sense that the people have not participated to the desired level, and there has not been participation of the opposition parties. So in that case, the question of representation or delegation of authority to the new government by the people remains under a big question. The social turmoil that we are facing in the context of the ongoing political upheaval in the country, that is likely to have more vibration even after the election is over. So that may affect our social stability in the medium and long term.
Well, there is a view that the supporters of the hardline Jamaat and the BNP are clearly anti-Indian on many key issues, from economic partnership to boundary and water-related arrangements. And if this perception is true, then what is the basis of the stance of these groups?
Well, yeah, there is an impression that BNP Jamaat alliance is against India. That's an impression. But I think that if we look at the issue from a slightly larger context or from longer time horizon, then we might get a different picture. If somebody says that BNP is anti-Indian or Awami League is pro-Indian, I think that's not a really fair assessment. What is important is that both the parties, this is my personal view, is that both Awami League and BNP, they understand what is Bangladesh's interest, and they will make their judgment, or they will continue their relationship with India based on those issues. Just to give you another picture, Bangladesh and India trade relationship is growing. Economic relationship is expanding. There is no reason to believe that if even BNP comes to power, they will interrupt or disrupt that kind of relationship, because whatever ideological orientation they may have, this is the interest of the people.
Well, in the event of the Begum Zia-led BNP coming to power, Pakistan's anti-India agenda could get a free run in Bangladesh's soil, since the Pakistan Army, the ISI and Hafiz Saeed have always supported the convicted and now hanged Abdul Qadir Mullah and the hardline Jamaat members. What then are India's options?
Well, there are two things here. Why are you presuming that if there is change in the government, Pakistan will come back? Bangladesh fought against Pakistan during our liberation war, and I think we stood for our dignity, and we still stand for our dignity, and I believe that we'll continue to stand for our dignity. And what is important, we in Bangladesh, as I said earlier, that the political parties are really, they will have to look into the interest of the people of Bangladesh. And during the last few years, the ground reality has changed a lot, has transformed. For example, Bangladesh and India are much more in closer relationship on security matters, on economic matters, on connectivity issues. So why you should not also look at the issue or issues from a positive perspective, in the sense that things should be slightly different, and not different in a negative sense. I am saying it from a positive perspective. It would be better for India and Bangladesh, or for the larger interest of India and Bangladesh, is for India to engage with all the actors in Bangladesh. And then I think if we can create a sense of mutuality of interest, then it would be much easier for India and Bangladesh to work regardless of who comes in power.
Well, if the elections go through as scheduled, by mid-next year, both Delhi and Dhaka would have new governments, and this could present both new opportunities and challenges for the two countries. This is all in this week's episode of Latitude. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, thank you and goodbye.